Happy Friday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Another episode of You've Gotta Be Sha Tin Me. I am joined, as always, by the brains behind this operation, Mr. Matt Carlson. Matt, how you doing, my friend?
I am colder than the stock market right now at Hong Kong, so doing okay otherwise though.
I mean, I was gonna say it's been rough, but I'm still riding the high from that hit last week. So, at Happy Valley. So, yeah. Other than that though, last week I put in my pick three, and I think I might have gone 0 for 3. I don't even remember, but it was not good. I've been very very cold, but we move on. We press on. We got some other good racing coming up this weekend. Obviously, we got some Derby preps. I cannot believe I'm saying this, but Aqueduct's late pick 5 actually looks really, really good. I mean,
Good for
it's
you looking
not.
at it.
I mean, it's not as funny as one of our friends who apparently has been secretly betting Aqueduct without telling anybody for the
just,
last couple of months.
just
So
redboarding a 500% ROI at Aqueduct since
yeah,
January or something like that. But yeah, as I think one of your favorite videos has said, just keep firing because good things happen to bad people. So
there we go.
just keep
Um,
punting.
but yeah, other than that, what are you doing, Matt? Anything fun going on?
No, I mean I got a new roof today. That was fun.
Oh God.
It's so I gotta hit something here. But
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, just happy springs around. Happy we're getting racing. Although Keeneland, hasn't started officially yet. So I guess the official spring racing start, which is to Sunday or Monday or whatever they're actually running. But yeah, I feel like things are finally coming back around. You're out of the winter racing domestically. There's good racing this weekend. There's Dubai tomorrow. I guess there's Grand National for anyone who watches that. There's Aussie racing tonight. Moira's running. There's Hong Kong later. It's coming back around. So for the few fans of racing that are left, these are exciting times.
So my birthday falls in the end of April, so it's coming up here in a couple weeks, and I thought this would be a good forum to ask this question. I know you're a fan of both of these things I'm going to mention. But so um, I told my wife there was a restaurant I really wanted to go to. Um, it's called Bavette's. It's downtown Chicago. You kind of got to get a reservation really early, and you got to do it like 21 days out. Um, and then you know once you kind of do that, I got to get up early tomorrow basically to try and get this damn reservation, right? I got to be up at 9. But I then got the news that Goose Island Stout Fest is going to be the same day that I was going to be doing dinner. And like I understand my limits at this point of my age. And while there might have been times I could go to a beer fest and then enjoy a nice steak dinner afterwards, and actually like enjoy the meal, right? Especially for like how expensive it's going to be, right? It's not a cheap meal, right? I mean, like it's not outrageous, right? We're not talking like Michelin star, whatever, but like I mean, we're probably going to walk out of dinner like 300 plus bucks easy, right?
And I'm sure you could double that if you so
No, yeah.
chose
Yeah,
very
yeah.
easily.
Yeah, but like, I'm gonna be coming out, so it's like if I'm gonna pay that much for dinner, like I want to enjoy it, right? And I'm not gonna enjoy it to the fullest if I have a full day of, beer drinking before that, right? No, that's what like pizza's for, that's what like tacos, that's what like McDonald's is for, right? Soak up that alcohol, right? It's not, you don't go to a nice steakhouse after that. The only place I go to a nice steakhouse after just an absolute degenerate night is in Vegas, right? So we'll keep Vegas over there. But I have a decision to make now. Am I going to the beer fest? Am I going to Goose Island Stout Fest? Or am I making reservations for this dinner? Your thoughts?
So keep in mind that my opinions are coming from me having, two young children, so we don't get to do either of these things
Hmm.
all that often, right? Um, I guess I'll respond with a question. What I'm assuming this would be on a Saturday, right? It
Yep.
sounds like
Saturday.
the events are a Saturday. Is Bavets open on Sundays?
Yeah.
They open Mondays,
Yeah.
Tuesdays, Wednesdays,
Yeah.
any day that ends
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Y.
Yeah. They're open other days. Yeah.
Yeah. How many days they run in Stoutfest?
Hmm.
They run in Stoutfest on
Hmm.
Sunday too, or Monday or Tuesday.
No. No, they are not.
So I think that probably makes your decision for you. In the great words of the movie Mallrats, as echoed by Keith Bush, eh, breakfast come and go, but Hartford, the whale, you only beat
Mm.
Vancouver maybe once, twice in a lifetime. So
All right. I will take that. I will take that under advisement. And we'll figure out what we end up doing. But enough life advice. And let's get into this late pick three here. Going to start race 8 here, Class 4 racing, 1400 meters, the Morningside Alumni Handicap. You know, overall, Matt, I kind of think I'm going to have a very, very chalky ticket. So I don't really know how much I'm going to be putting into this. There's a race I like a little bit earlier that I think I'll be playing something in, but yeah, just not really loving anything. Uh, I just feel like I'm landing on what I think are going to be short prices in these races, but where I'm often wrong. I believe there was one time where I thought this horse was going to be favored, and he went off at like 20 to 1, and I was like, I really don't know anything about morning lines. But um, in race 8, I really like two horses in here. I like the 2 Kaying Superb, and I like the 9 Mr. Cool. We'll start with Mr. Cool. I think I just love these lightly raced horses, right? I'm a sucker for them, right? Especially first time out, they run well. Jock stays aboard, and Karis Teton, right, who's more than competent jock here at Sha Tin. Really, really like him in this spot. I think ran very well last time out, and I like the stretch out here for this one. Um, and the other horse I'm using is the number 2 Kaying Superb, who at least on like the figures I was looking at, probably is the most consistent and probably fastest horse in this field. But just maybe he's just allergic to like winning. I don't think yet to win here at Hong Kong, right, in 7 starts. Um, but I think the last couple times, has had some pretty decent runs. And I think maybe this is the time, after dropping out of class 3, is down here in class 4, had kind of, I think, improved last time. Gets Matthew Poon aboard, who is, a pretty decent jock here again. And yeah, those are going to kind of be the 2 horses I'm going to be keying through, 2 Kaying Superb and the 9 Mr. Cool. And I don't know. I just kind of thought that was probably where the money's going to kind of go, but maybe I'm wrong here. What did you think, Matt?
yeah, I'm interested to see what price you get on Kaying Superb because the same thoughts as you. I really don't know where the public goes on this, and part of that is because if you look at kind of the draws that this horse has gotten, last race was probably the first time that it's actually gotten a draw that like it had a legitimate chance to win. Right? He's been drawn horrifically for the first 6 starts of his career, and finally drew the 5 post and ran pretty well. Right, but I don't know. I don't know what you get on this horse. I don't know what to make of this horse. I'm using him probably as a B, but if his price is too low, if everyone's kind of saying okay, you know, he finally got drew in the 6 post again, and he's due for a win. I'm not sure, right? Because to your point, he really hasn't shown much of anything, right? He hit the board. He's hit the board twice, and both were third. So, yeah, I kind of defaulted, I thought, to what may also be your chalk, which just looking at it differently, it just bet Zach, right? Like I thought the lone A for me in here was the 5 Autumn Vibes. He has a lot going in here, right? Zach gets back up, steps up in distance, which I do think suits him. Probably gets a better trip than last out when Bowman had to take back from the 10 post. I mean, the 9 post isn't much better, but I do think the way he's been riding, Zach will just inherently work out a better trip than that. They're all positives in here. I do think, again, price dependent. I'm willing to lean a little bit harder on this, but I do think, that's not the strongest of A's when I say that. So that was the one I guess that stood out to me out of this race. The couple other ones I will use in here. I like the 12. View all things again, like you said, just kind of propensity for these lightly raced horses in fields that I don't think are overly strong, because at least you're saying, okay, hey, maybe there's something there, right? And as opposed to horses that nothing's there. Now, granted, I don't think this angle has worked all that well. I preach it every week, and then kind of been laying eggs on it. But I think the last out you can toss because it was on softer ground. I do think you have a horse otherwise that's been progressing. I mean, theoretically, right? Like this will be the fourth up race if you toss that last one out. And so I do think, Figs have been moving forward. He's drawn well again. Uh, maybe, right? Maybe this horse continues to move forward. And if he doesn't, well, again, you at least took a chance on a horse that'll probably be a pretty decent price in here. So, and then the only other one that I'm really not sure of, like how the public's going to react to, is the 4 Etalon Or. I think this is a horse that continues to take money. I don't know when the public hops off of this horse. Again, I think this is kind of one of those horses that, I don't want to quit, but I think a lot of people just don't want to quit. And I don't know, like, I don't want to hop on until everybody else hops off, if that makes sense. If the pendulum swings like too far the other way and you get, 6 or 7 to 1 on this horse, great. I'll probably bet it. But he is drawn in 12 post. He really hasn't shown much of anything. He's never won a race. And it's could also be one of those horses that's just, still higher in the garden and goes off 4 to 1 on a horse that's, 0 for 8 lifetime. I don't know. So I'm willing to consider the 4, but realistically, I think the 5 and maybe the 12 are probably bigger plays in here. And then just kind of watching the prices, I think, on the 2 and the 4. But overall, yeah, I'm with you. It's probably not the strongest of fields. So kind of scratching to just see, okay, who do I think is going to move forward a little bit better?
Yeah. Yeah, I looked at the Zach horse, right, and I thought maybe, you're right. That's probably going to be a horse that takes a lot of money. Um, I don't know. Speed Pro looks like the horse took maybe a half step back the second time out. Now, granted, got drawn worse, but he's not drawn that well here either.
Yeah.
So, and I guess Zach is aboard again. So,
I think the
um,
longer trip does help this horse, right? And I think that just
mhm.
kind of evens out the draw a little bit. But yeah, I agree with you, right? Like last race was a step back, and there's still question marks. So for sure, and if the public swings too far to say, "Hey, just bet Zach," and when in doubt, then I mean, he's going to be flying back from Australia overnight because I think he's riding more probably from the grandstand over in Redwick. So yeah,
Nice. Anything else on this race?
oh, just hope I get through it, which I have not been lately. So.
All right, let's move on. Race 9. The SH Ho and CW Chu Alumni Handicap 7 furlong race, Class 3 racing. And yeah, you know, I don't know about you, but I thought this was a one horse race. And I basically landed on the one, and I couldn't really make much of a case for anybody else. Maybe you try and make a case for the two, but um, I don't know. I think the one has kind of got this race over a barrel a bit, but curious to hear what you thought.
Yeah, pretty much the same, right? I think you got to pick between the 1 or the 2. I think the Boombox is inherently just a better horse. I do think the 2 is usable, but if you kind of get that first and second choice, you probably don't want to use both unless you really have a strong opinion somewhere else in that pick 3, right? So, yeah, not too much separate. The only other horse I was interested in here was the 9 Fortunate Son. And the only reason for that is this horse has a race way back at 1400 that actually fits in here. I don't know if it shows up in the card you're using, but at least in my figs, kind of that first up race in September, was breaking from the 12 post, ran a pretty decent race to kind of get back to the rail. Was kind of had to go from last and ran on to get second in that race and a pretty decent clip. I don't know. I do think that one, just given kind of the other horses in this field, could get lost in the board. And if you get the right setup and you get a horse that can close, he's kind of been doing a bunch of other stuff, right? I mean, they bumped him up to a mile, they bumped him up to 2,000. They've been running at 1,800 a full mile. I think the cutback maybe helps here. And so if you were looking for a price in here, if you were looking for one who I think maybe could, you know, get home over the two favorites, maybe that's the one. But I don't know. That's stretching a lot to kind of get past the box, I think, right? If you're going to say, hey, can that horse outclose a, deep closer who's probably a class two, if not graded horse, meh, that's a tough ask. So it's really especially tough when you're asking, hey, two horses with a very similar style to do the same thing. Like, is the boombox, not as good as the fortunate son closing? Eh, that's rough. But hey, if you get 20 to 1, maybe something happens. So that's the only case where I think I'd look at that. But yeah, I probably saw it very similar to the way you did.
Yeah, I don't really want to spend too much time on here because like I said, I basically went with the one. But I will say, mentioning Fortunate Son, the 9. Yeah, the was it the race on the September 28th that you were talking about?
It's the one before that, I
The
think. I
one
think it
before that.
was.
Okay, yeah. I don't go that far back. But even that race on September 28th was pretty good. And if you kind of look at his PPs, right? He's only run at Sha Tin going 7 furlongs once, and he finished second in that race,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I'm talking
So,
about. Was that like it was that second up
gotcha.
like effort right off the layoff or right off the new season. So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe
So,
right. It's like something right. If you want to
yeah.
scratch and claw for any price in here, that's what I found.
Yeah, I kind of like it. I'm actually making a note of that. Maybe make sure I relook at this race. All right. Race 10, the Wu Yi Sun and Li Wu Sing alumni handicap. That's a big mouthful. Um, yeah, I landed on 3 horses in the spot, but I'm curious to see where you landed first.
Yeah, I think my main A in here will be the 8 Dragon Joy, if for no other reason than I think you're catching the draw lottery, right? Uh, Like look at the run of draws this horse has gotten, right? He was incredibly consistent running in class 4 and then, kind of hasn't had much of a chance the last two. And even, I mean, he hasn't had a chance kind of the last 4 or 5 just based on the fact that, I'm trying to look up the actual draws that he's gotten. He ran from 13, 14, 14, 12. Okay, out of post from 4, 10, 13, right? Like this horse has gotten kind of shafted like time and time again. And so even won one of those races from the 14 post, granted in the, restricted race in class 3. But I do think finally draws a good post. I think Matthew Poon is a serviceable jock at 1600. And so I think, again, potentially with that, the figs fit in here. And I think he could run well, right? I don't think this horse has had a chance to, kind of show what he could do up in class 3. This may be a legitimate class 3 horse. And so I think that's, immediately where my eyes went against this field. I don't love the fact that Teton was up for one race and then got off, but hey, Poon has a win on this horse. So, maybe there's some magic and, maybe the horse kind of jives with, Matthew Poon better than others. So that'll be kind of my primary bet in here. Two others that I did want to use. I kind of like the 11 Glorious Success. Now, look, I can only continue to bag Andre Adzeni if I continue to bet him, right? So
Hmm.
maybe that's just where I'm going with this. But, the one turn races at Sha Tin, the first 3 races of this horse's career, looked really good, right? He had 2 seconds in the third. And then they bumped him to all weather and then they put him at Happy Valley going in 2 turns. And it's like, what the hell happened? Right. And so I don't know if that was a play to kind of get the weight back down or what, but hey, maybe it worked because he went off at 127 last time and now he's back down to 120. So, hey, maybe, right? I have no idea why they did that, or what the um, logic was, but maybe this is the trip he wants. So you know, Andrea Atzeni is a glorious 2 for 48 a mile over the past year. That's not good. We'll see what price you get, right? If I get the right price, if I get above 5 or 6 to 1, kind of when I'm running my stuff, probably make it an A. If people lean into this because they see this horse has had a good run at one turn at Sha Tin, I probably won't lean as hard and make it a B. So, uh, at least just based on kind of getting back to what the horse was good at, I wanted about the 11. And then the only other one that I thought maybe was interesting in here was Starmac. And, again, Starmac the 3, I have no idea what this horse wants to do, right? This horse, if you look at the running lines, has been really all over the place, right? Like, I don't think they've run, they kind of bounce back and forth between 1800 and a mile. They brought this horse to Happy Valley. Clearly, that wasn't what he wanted. I thought the last out effort was actually pretty good at 1400. So, maybe the extra 200, maybe bumping up to a mile helps this horse. But again, just kind of depending on price, he's going to need a pace potentially close into, or I do think pace will help him. I do think at least a lot of those Happy Valley races have been slow paces that he was closing into. And so if I see a horse closing into a slow pace, it's a little bit more appealing. But again, I just really don't know what this horse wants to do. So I kind of put it as a B, as a just in case. We'll see. So yeah, most of my money I think will be through Dragon Joy here. I think that was the one that really kind of why I got drawn to.
Yeah, I'm with you on Starmac. I have Starmac as my lone B in this race. Um, I think that his Happy Valley races look pretty good, um, and I don't know. I was trying to make a case for a number of horses in this race, but the one thing I can say about Starmac is Starmac has run, this distance and it has got he's got some form, right? He's got some back form in here, right? He's got 9 starts going this 1 turn mile here at Happy Valley. He's got a second, and he's got 4 thirds, right? So he's been able to kind of hold his own, I think, at this distance here. But I don't know. I'll be interested to see what kind of price we get on him. I think he is going to be a little bit longer. We're probably going to get like 12 to 15 to 1, I think, somewhere on him. So I kind of like him as like a mid price. I actually really like the best peach. Um, the best peach, I think, is got really, got up into class 2, and I think was definitely in over his head in those races. And I think if you go back far enough, you see some mile races that I think fit in with this group. I mean, I think um, the last race on my PPs here, right? This from 11:24. Um, that race, although it finished eighth for 4 lengths off. I mean, Patcha Theta was in that race, right? It was a pretty good race, right? It's class 2, which is like I said, much tougher than what I think he's facing here. And yeah, I just think that he's found a soft enough group. I think he's back at the distance that he kind of wants to be at. I think he's got a win at this distance. He's only got 2 wins at Hong Kong. One is at this distance, but he's got to win a second and 5 thirds in 17 starts. So, and I think that he's just got some back figures that fit in here very well. So if he runs, I think back to his best, I think he's going to be very tough in here, and he absolutely fits. And then obviously, I think the other horse I'm going to use is going to be the 9 Sky Jewelry, and this is just this is your quintessential horse that is just improving, getting better every starts. We're fifth up at this point. Um, he's won every other race. Not every other race he's been in, but every other, right? He's got 2 wins in 4 starts. If he had a tough second. And yeah, this is just like the typical progression I think you see sometimes with these people these horses that are going to eventually get to that 1 turn mile distance, right? They start them out at 1200, get 1400, and finally stretch them out to that 1600 distance. Um, Hugh Bowman gets aboard here. He's ridden this horse 3 times before, and this is the horse that's won from a wide draw, so I don't necessarily hate the nine post here, but I think that this is going to be a pretty short priced horse in this field. So I'm using, but um, yeah, I like the four and the three as well. Anything else in this race?
I don't think so. Uh,
No.
Again, we'll see. Right. I mean, if the boombox probably wins leg two, then maybe it doesn't pay regardless. But
Gotcha. So, our favorite game that we've been playing lately is guess the horse Josh is going to bet. We don't have a 1,000 meter race here, so I went to race five.
let me look at race five and see who you were going to bet. Now, I do think there's a lot of speed in this race. So, guessing that there's an opportunity for me to win on yet another beer in here. But I'm going to guess that then you. Ugh. I don't know who you taking here. You're either betting speed on Ben Thompson or Andrea Zenny or Lyle Hewitson. Ugh. Who did you take in here? I have no idea. This is a horrible race. What are you
I
what are you
took the
doing?
three. I took
Ah,
the
okay.
three,
All right.
Golden
Yeah. All right.
Luck.
Brittany Wong. Sorry. Yeah. I
I
should
took the
have
three,
seen the.
Golden Luck here. Brittany Wong gets aboard here, and honestly, so funny that you're mentioning right. So Brittany Wong, obviously, we've talked about her before. She's usable going 1,000. She's usable going 1,200, and then outside of that, and she's usable on the dirt. But outside of that, I think you're probably um, you buyer beware. But yeah, I actually like her in this spot, and you look at the form looks all kinds of dirtied up, but I really do think that this horse's best race is when this horse has gotten on the lead up front and been close to the pace. And I think that, I mean, Brittany's got one way to go with this one, and you see that this is a horse that's kind of gone back and forth, back and forth. Hewison's gotten on the lead, Zenny's gotten on the lead. Well, now Brittany Wong's getting us on the lead. With a 10 pound allowance on top of it, right? So we're going to be 13 pounds lighter from last race at this level, um, and yeah, I do think this is a horse that does possess some early speed. So, yeah, I went with the three Golden Luck here. And yeah, I was just gonna, go back to my tried and true. Let's see if we can get a speed horse here. Um, you know, yeah, I do see like the 12 is drawn out a little bit wider. I think maybe a firm is probably the going to be the biggest concern, but the that's a horse that's shown Happy Valley speed, and in Sha Tin was showing speed, but that was going 1,400, so we're cutting back a little bit. Um, so I don't know. Maybe I was getting a little too cute here with the three Golden Luck, but we'll take a shot.
So I picked another race as my quote unquote best bet initially, but I do think the race I picked and the horse I picked is chalky because I picked race six and I picked Geneva, who is probably going to go off odds on, right? Like that horse has one bad race and it was last out, and it was off the layoff. It was poorly drawn. It was a yielding. It closed into a slow pace, right? I mean, that horse is going to hopefully romp in that race. So that is boring. And so since you told me you pick race five, and I feel bad because I think I'm up in beer bets 3-1 at this point. I'll pick a horse, and I'll even tell you that I won't even claim a beer bet unless this horse goes off at a longer price than year three, because I do like a massive bomb in this race. Actually, just looking at it, um, and that's the 6 Lucky King. I think that this horse, you know, obviously the first race was a complete toss. You can just get rid of that on wet dirt, and that has nothing to do with how I think it could perform here. Um, but I think that this race theoretically could melt. I think there's a fair amount of speed. I think there's a fair amount of horses that just have to send in here. And I'm looking for horses that have passed, or other horses, and there's just not a lot in here. And if I look to the trials that this horse has had, he's actually passed horses, right? He sat at the back in Chunfa and actually passed some horses. So I think there's a chance that this horse maybe can suck up at a price. And so I'm willing to take a beer bet and actually add a, contingency that I think this horse will go off at a longer price than year 3 and beat year 3 to potentially cash a beer. So
All right. I mean, I'll take it. I'll take any beer I can get. Because once we get to 4, I think I'm gonna have to send you a 4-pack at this point.
we're just trying to even things up here a little bit. So that's where I'll go. I'll go to this horse that's never shown any form at all with Derek Lung aboard.
That's
Good
all
for
right.
me.
I'm betting Brittany Wong, so I mean,
Cheers
Anything
to
else
that.
on this card?
I have not dug in too deep. I looked at the Class 2 race, and I don't even know if I want to bet that race. So.
Well, that's going to do it for us here on You've Got to Be Sha Tin Me. Obviously, check us out at ontherwronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. I am at Cherry Drank. Matt is at Slow and Steadied. He'll have his deeper dive done hopefully by tomorrow and have his picks posted up. But yeah, we got a lot of good racing this weekend. And, let's make some money, guys. Come on. One time. Please.
Do. Need it.